In this video, what we're going to do is continue from the previous video, and we're going to make this video as short as possible because this is the 6th video for this particular series on making this JavaScript game. And if you recall, what we were doing is we're making a game that's kind of like a cave game, or a game that you go through doors, something simple that we can add on to for later. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's where we are right now. Our buttons don't work, but everything is in the position we want it to be in. And let's start getting at least one of these buttons to work. As a matter of fact, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start putting the proper code in, and I'll explain it later. But initially, let's put the code in, and then we'll go through with the explanation as to how everything works so that this goes a little bit faster. Now, what I'm suggesting to you is that as the code is put in, make sure you pause the video, type the code in, and then we'll go forward from there. Now, the reason why we're doing that is because it's a learning environment, meaning when you type the code and then you start understanding it, it allows you to have the capability of doing it yourself later on. So it allows you to retain information a lot better than just copying and pasting. So this is why I don't supply the code for this particular video. For other videos that's more complex, where we need to get something done, I supply the code, but for this one, that's not the case. So I'm right here in brackets, and we should have our cave.html, our CSS, and our our JavaScript file. I'm right here in the JavaScript file, and this is the last thing that we did. We put some variables there that actually access the items that's on the screen so far, the doors or the divs. And we have this message box. We access this, and now what we want to be able to do is go ahead and start adding what's called some listeners. And what listeners do is they listen for button clicks. So when we go here and we click one of these buttons, the listener will listen for it anytime a button is clicked, and then it will do whatever you ask it to do once that button is clicked. So I'm going to pause the video for a second. So here we have our event listeners. So right here we have this get clicked ID, which creates a function, and it takes in an event, which means when the button is clicked. That's what this is. So we take that event, button mouse down is going to be the function that we create. We haven't really created it yet, but this will be the function that runs whenever the button is clicked here. That function will take this event, which is the button clicked, or the object itself. Then it takes that event, it gets the target, and it gets the ID. Something similar to how this gets the ID, but because this is a button, it's going to take that ID and throw it into this function here, which we haven't created yet. So we're going to create that function later on. But for right now, we're creating all our variables here. Now, over here, you see I've added these event listeners, mouse down, and it's going to run this function here called get clicked ID. Which we have not created this one yet. So just make sure you type this exactly the same, and understand that basically this one right here gets the mouse when it's pressed, and this gets the mouse event when it's released. So there's a press and release event that we add to all of the caves in a way, or all of the doors. Now the next thing we want to do is add the objects. So here we have the objects. And basically, the objects are going to be the rooms themselves. Now, the way we're going to do that is first, we're going to create this variable called selected room. And make sure that you open and close these brackets. And you want this to be closed. All of these are going to have a semicolon at the end of them. Unlike when we're inside of a function, these are going to have a semicolon at the end. So make sure that's the case. Now, between these brackets, you're going to put these names with underscores and these colons here, exactly like I have them here. And then you're going to have the comma. Each one is separated by comma, including this get current right here, and semicolon inside of that, and then there's a comma after that. So you can see this function here exists by itself. That's a function which is just like a variable, comma, and another function which is like a variable, comma, and this function here, and this one here. Now the last one doesn't need a comma. That's the last object that we created. Now basically what this is this is an object in JavaScript. And an object can contain a lot of different things. So this is a variable, which is not treated the same as an object, but with a variable, you're taking something and then you're putting it into that variable so you can simply use that variable name. An object is like a variable. As you can see, we declare it almost the same, except it takes a series of things. And like a car, right? A car is not just one thing. It's steering wheels, it's seats, it's trunk, it's an engine. So that's a series of things, and a car is an object. However, a name is not necessarily an object. It's one thing. It's a name. Okay, so, and you could break that thing down. So a name could be broken down into alphabets or, you know, characters. But overall, we consider a name just a name. Just like a variable can be broken down. Let's say if it was a string, it can be broken down into characters, but we don't see it necessarily like this object here. Even though in object-oriented programming is an object, we don't want to get into that right now. Just understand the difference between a variable and an object here. So what we do here, we create these room objects. These are not doors, these are room objects. So we have room A, and we start the north door, east door, south door, and west door all null, meaning nothing's in there. We want to start it all blank. And then we give it a title, and we call this den room A. Then we do the same thing we did up here with this get and this set functions. So get north, set north, get east, set east. And we just keep going down the list here and make sure you have your commas here. And make sure you have your semicolons here as you continue going down. And when you get to the last one, there's no comma, and then there's a semicolon at the last there before you start B. Now, basically, once you have A, you're basically copying that same thing and just considering it B. Everything else inside is exactly the same. There's no difference. So the only difference here, aside, this is the same. The only difference would be this part right here, the title would be different, because we're going to be changing these when the game is played later on, well, in the code later on. So we have room B, room C, and room D. And those are all the objects, the literal rooms that we'll be using to be able to traverse the game. So when you look here and you see this cave, basically I'm considering it a room here. So cave D, okay? There's nothing in there right now. We're going to put stuff in there later, but cave D, let's see, right here. That's cave D. This is also in code cave D. This is cave A up here because we're dealing with objects. Like this is an object, so we created objects in code. Cave A would be here. That's cave A. So we're representing what we consider in our interface here, or our map here. We're just representing it in code, basically. So in code, once you represent something in code, that doesn't make it exist. I mean, we do represent it, but it doesn't exist. That's why we created these nulls here. So now we have to initialize these objects. We have to put what belongs in those objects. Right now, they're just blank rooms that is just waiting for us to put some stuff in. So down here, what we're going to do is we're going to initialize our objects. So now when you look here, we have room A, and all of these are room A. The reason why we have 4, remember, because we have 4 doors. Room A dot north equals room B. So remember, these are the rooms, and also we're initializing rooms with what room they lead to. So when you look at this chart over here, let's look at room A north. Room A north leads to room B west. So room A north leads to room B. I don't have to put west because I'm in room B. room A East leads to room D. So room A East leads to room D. Room A South leads to room C, as you can see here. And room A West leads to null. Now, because when I go over here, room A West leads to nothing. And we're going to process this later by saying whenever you see a null, that means it's locked. So this is because we developed this up here. So whenever you say something like this, whenever you say room A North equals room B, well, basically what's happening is that you're saying room A, when you put the dot like that, you put that dot, room A dot North is going to go here, equals. Whenever you say equals, it's going to run this set function. And it's going to take that, whatever it equals, and it's going to put it inside this N, and then the application will always, the object will store that in there. So that's how this works. Room A North goes into room A North, setting it. When you say room B equals, that means you're just taking the entire room B. Let's see, I take this entire room B. It's almost like you're just taking that entire room B and you're putting it into room A's north variable. Okay? So that means we always have access to it. Anytime we're in room A and we go north, we always have access to room B. And then we're just going to do the other rooms. So we have room B here, room C, and room D. Now, remember, I'm making these equivalent to what my map says. So room B north, let's see, room B north is locked, so that would be null. Room B north is null. And you can see I have a little list over here. So north is null on room B. East is null. This one's not correct. Right, this is not correct because this would be D. Yeah. And south would be C. And west would be A. That's much better. All right, so that's basically what I have here, okay? The same thing where they go is what I have here. And you want to make sure you copy that down. So a lot of times, you know, with this sort of thing, you can put a little note down here that kind of tells you what room goes to where, that sort of thing. And, you know, you can make the text art. I'm just going to show you this really quick. So as you can see here, I have this comment here. So this is a multi-line comment that goes from one line to the next. And here's the link to the website that I got this from, where you can make these things here. So here I have rooms, and I have this little list here, and north, east, south, and west. And then I have where room A goes to north goes to room B, east goes to D, south goes to C, and west goes null. So this is a little chart of what this here equals. And I can actually pretty much take this from here and actually put it over here as a reference to how this works. And just to show you guys this website, as you can see here, here's the website. And basically all you need to do, you can just type whatever you want up in there, and it's going to make this sort of text art for you, you know, this. And then I could just copy this and save it properly inside of the application. But let's go ahead and move along. So now I need to create a starting room. So I'm going to go here and paste that there. So now I have this starting room. So I said the selected room, which is what we created up here, this selected room object. The selected room equals room A. So I'm always going to start on room A. And then I take this message bar. Let's see what we have. Our message bar, remember the info box? We take the message bar and we put this information in there. The previous room, or the previous message, plus a prefix message. Sorry, that's going to be the first message. So that's going to be this message here. That's always going to be there. Okay. So that message plus the selected room dot current dot title. So the selected room is room A. So the current title of room A is the title of room A is den room A. So that's really what we should see when everything first starts. So now what we want to do is, if you remember when we created these event listeners, we want to go ahead and create this button mouse down. No, not the mouse up. We want to create this button mouse down here that takes in this event. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to type that. I'm going to paste that here. I already typed it out. So we have this button mouse down listener, and the function starts here, and you can see this is the same name, and it takes that event, which is the door ID. This is any name. You can put any name there. It's just going to use that name. I just call it door ID because that's what I'm looking for. And then I have an if statement here that checks to see if the selected door is null. It says if the selected door is not null, then go ahead and do this. So if it's not null, then I want you to go ahead and change the color. And I want you to check door ID. So switch door ID means check the door ID. And if the door ID is north, case north, if the door ID is north, colon, then go ahead and do this and break. That means cut out, get out of this loop. No, well, not a loop, but this select state, this switch statement. If the door ID is east, go ahead and do this and break. If the door ID is south, do this and break. Make sure you pause the video and copy this down too. If the door ID is west, do this and break. And then in the switch statement. And I put a little note here, comment here to know that it's ended. Because this if statement right here has an else statement down here that continues. Meaning if it's none of these, then I want you to like take the current room and I want you to make it equal the previous room. Meaning because none of these exist, you need to stay in the room that you were in instead of going to the next room. So then I give this message here, and then I return, and then I end the if else statement, and then I end the function here. So I do these so that way you can be aware of where each one of these brackets are ending in this function. Now you'll notice in this function, there's this function here called is door locked. We haven't created that yet, and we're going to create that right now, the is door locked function. I'm going to put that right below here. And here's our is door locked function, and it takes in an object of a door. So I called it object obj door, okay, because that's what it takes in. And as you can see here, this is door object is taking in the selected room dot current dot west when it's west. Is taking in the selected room dot current dot south when it's south, and so on and so forth. So here, this is just checking to see if it's null. If it's not null, then it's going to do this, meaning it's going to take that door and it's going to put it in the current room. Then it's going to give a message here based on the current room. Then it's going to change the title. But if it is null, it's going to take the previous room, just like what we did up here, and it's going to give that message that it's locked, and it's going to turn it red. And that's how this function works. Now the final function we need, and I'm going to put that down here, is our mouse up function. So when I'm done clicking, when the mouse goes up, so I have this mouse up function here. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to paste that here. And this is my mouse up listener. And basically it's called button mouse up, and it takes the message bar and it checks to see if the background color is red. If it is red, it keeps it red. But if it's not red, then it changes it to the background color, change the background color to its original color, basically. So it's going to keep the original color. So this is just so it can have a switch, like, so when it's red, it can stay red if I keep on clicking something that makes it red. But if it's red and I click on something that makes it a regular color, it'll go ahead and switch. So basically I'm creating a light switch here. It's going off and on depending on what's being selected. So that's our JavaScript. And we should be able to see this work. So make sure you save all of this and open up your web page, your cave.html, and refresh it. And what you should see is that you're currently in the den room. So I'm going to put this side by side with the map so we can see that we are actually following our map here. So I'm currently in A. So if I were to go north, I should be in B. And there it is. You're currently in the garden room. So I'm in B. If I go south, I should be in C. There we go. If I go west, I should be in A. Yes, I'm in A. But what if I go west again? It's locked. So now, so I'm still in the same room because remember that previous, go back to previous once it's locked. So I'm going to go east and see if I could go to D. There we go. And I'll go south. I'm in C, correct. And I'm going to go north, and I'm in B. So we have a fully functioning map. And basically, this message could be an image, it could be a level, it could be almost anything. There's your full-on navigation between the caves using JavaScript, using HTML, using CSS. And this is a great start to being able to have the ability to create your own little, word adventure game. And it can go beyond that, obviously, but this is a really good start. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comment section below. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like so I can know to keep making these in-depth videos. And I mean, if I'm not getting enough likes on these, I'm just going to make simple videos or maybe not go this in-depth at all, because I'm not sure if everyone likes these long videos where it's a series. So I check to see if people are liking it. If people aren't liking it, then I go back to the simple videos to where we just do 1 or 2 things at a time. So make sure you leave your comments in the comment section below, and I see you guys next time.